What if your life had an expiration date? Not your life itself, but your usefulness. Imagine you're a scribe, a jeweler, a scholar. Your entire world, your entire livelihood depends on your eyes. And then, somewhere around your 40th birthday, it starts to fade. The words blur, the details soften. The world you mastered slowly slips out of focus. For thousands of years, this wasn't a medical condition, it was just aging. An unavoidable end to your career, your passion, your craft. Then, sometime in the late 13th century in Italy, a mysterious invention appeared. It was a kind of magic, a superpower you could hold in your hand, an object that could literally turn back the clock on your own eyes. This is the story of one of the most important inventions in human history, an object that arguably did more to launch the modern age than any other, and yet it sits so quietly on our faces that we forget it's even there. This is the unseen history of your eyeglasses. Today, more than half the people on Earth use some form of corrective eyewear. It's so common, we barely think about it. But getting here was a journey of 1,000 years filled with monks, craftsmen, and a desperate need to simply see. Our story starts not with glasses, but with the idea of glass itself. The ancient Romans knew about it. The philosopher Seneca, back in the 1st century AD, noticed that letters, when viewed through a glass globe filled with water, appeared larger. The Roman Emperor Nero famously used a polished emerald to watch the gladiators fight, though historians debate whether it was to help his vision or just to reduce the sun's glare. But these were just observations, curiosities. The real breakthrough came from the Arab world. Around the year 1000, the brilliant scholar Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as al-Haytham, wrote his monumental Book of Optics. He was the first to correctly explain how vision works, that light enters the eye rather than the eye emitting rays, and critically, he described how a curved piece of glass, a lens, could be used to magnify things. His work was translated into Latin and spread through Europe, laying the intellectual groundwork for what was to come. For centuries, monks and scholars read his theories and experimented with what they called reading stones. These were basically primitive magnifying glasses, segments of a glass sphere that you would place directly on the page to enlarge the text. They worked, but they were clumsy. You had to hold them, and you could only read a small section at a time. The real challenge was, how do you make this hands-free? How do you put the magic of the lens permanently in front of your eyes? The answer arrives, somewhat mysteriously, in Pisa, Italy, around the year 1286. We don't know the inventor's name for sure. He may have been a glassmaker who wanted to keep his creation a trade secret, but we know of him thanks to a Dominican friar named Giordano da Pisa. In a sermon in 1306, he said, "It is not yet 20 years since there was found the art of making eyeglasses, which make for good vision, and I myself have seen and conversed with the man who first made them." He saw the man, but he never named him. Another friar, Alessandro della Spina, was said to have seen the invention and simply copied it, sharing it freely. Whoever it was, the first eyeglasses were born. They were simple things, 2 magnifying lenses, each set in a frame made of metal, bone, or leather, and joined together in the middle by a rivet. You held them up to your eyes, or sort of pinched them onto your nose. They were called rivet spectacles. They were a revolution. Suddenly, a master craftsman whose eyes were failing at 45 could now work for another 20 or 30 years. All that accumulated knowledge and skill wasn't lost. Scribes, lawyers, priests, tailors, their working lives were effectively doubled. Think about the impact of that. It's been argued that this single invention helped to fuel the explosion of art, science, and philosophy that we now call the Renaissance. But they still weren't perfect. For one thing, they only corrected farsightedness, the inability to see things up close that happens to most people as they age. Nearsightedness, The inability to see in the distance had to wait another couple of centuries for the invention of the opposite kind of lens, the concave lens. And they were a pain to wear. They'd slip off your nose, you couldn't move your head too quickly. For the next 400 years, inventors tinkered with the design. There were bow spectacles that put pressure on the temples. Some people tried tying ribbons to the frames and looping them over their ears. In Spain, these ribbons were seen as a sign of high social class. Finally, around 1727, a London optician named Edward Scarlett perfected the design we still use today: rigid arms or temples that rested on top of the ears. It seems so obvious now, but it took nearly 4.5 centuries to get from the first lens to a stable pair of glasses. But while all this was happening, a parallel story was unfolding. A story not about seeing more clearly, but about seeing less. This is the story of sunglasses. We have to go back in time again, but this time to the 12th century China. Documents from the period describe judges using lenses made of smoky quartz. The purpose wasn't to block the sun, it was to hide their facial expressions in court. They wanted to appear impartial and emotionless as they listened to testimony. These were the first sunglasses, and they were designed to create a poker face. The idea of using tinted lenses for sun protection didn't really catch on until much later. But in the 1920s, that all changed because of a man named Sam Foster. He founded the Foster Grant Company in 1919 to make hair accessories. But in 1929, he saw a new opportunity. He started selling mass-produced, affordable sunglasses on the boardwalks of Atlantic City, New Jersey. They were an instant hit. People loved the glamour, the mystery, and of course the comfort of shielding their eyes from the bright summer sun. But what really cemented sunglasses as an icon of cool was World War II. American pilots in the new Army Air Corps were flying higher and longer than ever before. Up in the thin atmosphere, the glare from the sun was intense and blinding. It caused headaches and altitude sickness. They needed protection. In the 1930s, the company Bausch & Lomb was commissioned to create a solution. They developed a special lens, tinted green, that could block ultraviolet and infrared rays, all while preserving clear vision. They set it in a lightweight metal frame that was large enough to cover the entire eye socket. They called them anti-glare goggles. You know them by their more famous name, aviators. When posts of heroic pilots like General Douglas MacArthur appeared in newspapers, the style exploded in popularity. After the war, another style, the Wayfarer, was introduced by Ray-Ban in the 1950s. Its radical new plastic design was a favorite of everyone from Bob Dylan to President John F. Kennedy. Sunglasses were no longer just for the beach or for pilots. They were a statement, a piece of fashion, a way to project an aura of celebrity, danger, and cool. And this is where our two stories, prescription glasses and sunglasses, finally merge. The lines began to blur. Famous architects and movie stars made bold, thick-rimmed prescription glasses a signature part of their look. Think Buddy Holly, think Andy Warhol. Eyeglasses went from being a medical necessity, something people were once ashamed of, to a fashion accessory, a way to express your personality. Today, you can get prescription sunglasses. You can get glasses with lenses that darken in the sun. You can get blue light blocking lenses for staring at screens. The humble object invented by a secretive Italian glassmaker has become a canvas for technology and personal style. From reading stones that gave scholars a few more precious years of work, to the temple arms that finally let us wear them securely. From a Chinese judge's quartz mask to the aviator sunglasses that defined a generation of cool. It's an incredible evolution. An object that solved a fundamental human problem and, in doing so, changed the course of history and then changed its own identity from a tool to a technology to a statement. So, if you're one of the billions of people who wears glasses, take them off for a second. Look at them. You're holding 700 years of history in your hand. Centuries of innovation, from a nameless inventor in Pisa to the engineers at Bausch & Lomb. You're holding the tool that fueled the Renaissance and the accessory that defined Hollywood glamour. It makes you think, doesn't it? Our glasses change how we see the world, but the story of glasses changes how we see glasses. So here's a little challenge for you. Go look in a mirror with your glasses on. Do they feel like just a medical device, or are they part of your identity? Let us know in the comments how you see your own glasses. We'd genuinely love to know.